You're watching the AFA channel. It's a live shot of the Brooklyn Bridge. Beautiful day in New York. Seriously, it's like early summer here. And given how long winter lasted, we'll take it. It's AFA Today on AFR Talk. Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us. And Billy from Oklahoma, who I think was my last caller, I honestly, I did not cut you off. You came on and you dropped your 3 grenades and you ran away. I understand. But first of all, I don't know what you want to know about the tax exemption issue. Study that up and whatever. I get to come here and do a radio broadcast. I've not had parameters put on me. I've not been told what topics I will and will not be allowed to talk about. That's that. As to your other 2 things, you said Huckabee is completely wrong because my show is evidence that we still have free speech in America. Well, on some level, that is true. And I believe I said that Huckabee was being hyperbolic. But again, if you look at the trend line, are we more free or less free than where we were a few years ago in terms of speech? The line has moved continually in the less free direction. It's moved in the direction of Kim Jong-il. It's moved away from the direction of the United States. I'm not saying it's there. It's just moving in that direction. And you can say, oh, Kev, how ridiculous is that? No, evidenced by the fact that the IRS attempted to squelch or suppress the ability for certain groups to express themselves based on political ideology. I mean, that's a foremost demonstration of how speech has attempted to be suppressed in America. A couple of thousand groups being told you may or may not be able to speak the way you wish. And I just find it funny that, every time someone from the left, and Billy, I don't know if you believe this or not, that, faith-based people should be the last people in line to get to exercise their right to free speech. I don't see people like Billy standing in line when Reverend Al Sharpton brings in, the Democratic powers that be into pulpits into the inner cities of America and has them basically turn church services into campaign rallies. I don't understand that. But those churches are never investigated. And I'm not sure that they need to be. Why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid, Billy? Why are you so afraid of people speaking their mind? Why are you so afraid that quote-unquote tax-exempt organizations aren't allowed to have an opinion about something? What are you so afraid of? I'm not endorsing anybody on this broadcast. I'm not unendorsing. I'm not telling you not to vote for somebody. I'm not telling you to vote for somebody. I think it's hilarious that Governor Huckabee, who may or may not run for president in the next go-around, makes an observation, and people like you, Billy from Oklahoma, literally flip your lid and watch steam come out of the side of your ears. I mean, I find it humorous. You don't have a sense of humor. I get that. That's okay. I'll pray for you about that. God can correct that easily. But this goes to show some of the the very hypersensitivity that exists in this arena. And when a magazine publishes the internal photos of Jay Carney's house and he has Soviet-era propaganda plastered all over his walls as decorations, we're supposed to put our brains in neutral and pretend like we didn't see that. That's what they want us to do. Oh, that's just a great piece of art. Oh, wow. I wonder what it means. Oh, no, we're not supposed to ask that question because then we would actually get an answer that we might have an opinion about. This kind of silliness it's propagated by people that live in a bubble that can't deal with reality. From the beginning of our nation, our newspapers more or less were partisan communiques. Many of them in the early days called the such and such Democrat or the such and such Republican. And what they did is they printed stories from their perspectives and they wrote them up, and you knew if you were reading one or the other pretty much what you were getting. It was only as the era began to get a little modern and they wanted to try to attract larger audiences that they began to pretend to be nonpartisan in reporting. But there is no nonpartisanship in reporting. Everybody that's a reporter, left or right, has a perspective. That perspective fills in the gaps on things that they report on. That doesn't make every network objective or not objective, because I think a really good network servicing the American people has both sides represented. And I know that progressives will just blow another gasket here, but I think that Fox has a fairly good amount of people that are left of center and people that are right of center. And when they bring them on to analyze a news story, you get both sides at least adequately represented. On the other two networks, the major networks, CNN and MSNBC, you get mostly one side represented. I think if someone wants to speak up and give their opinion, they should be allowed to. That's why we push people that disagree with me right up to the front of the line. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's talk to Becky in Louisiana. Hey, Becky, welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. Hi.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure thing.
I totally agree with what Mike Huckabee said. I do not have a problem with it. And if he ran for president, I'd be there and the polls opened.
Now, you're not saying, Becky, you're not saying that he literally was saying that we are exactly the same as North Korea, are you?
No, I don't think so at all.
Oh, okay. What made you understand the difference of what he said and what he meant? How did you decipher that?
I just knew what he meant. I mean, it's like if
you just used your brain.
Yes, if people would open up their eyes. I mean, people have their heads so far up in the clouds that they don't realize what's going on. I mean, Satan comes in so subtly and just, takes things over. People, they don't stop to realize what's going on. And like you said, Al Sharpton could have said something, that people didn't agree with, but nothing would be said. President Obama can say things, but nothing's ever said. But because Huckabee is a Christian and a Republican, something said.
Yeah, and I don't know. Thank you, Becky, for the call. I don't know if that's entirely true, that it's just because he's a Republican or just because I think he has a worldview that runs counter to a lot of other people. Ken in Mississippi. Hey, Ken, welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. Glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go right ahead.
Well, I'm not here to endorse Huckabee or anybody else. However, I do agree with him that in some ways we are no more free than the ones in Korea.
We are moving in that direction. Is that correct?
That's correct. The only difference is their leader says what he's going to do and does it, and our leader says what he thinks you want to hear and then does what he pleases.
Well, that's an interesting observation, Ken. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Jose in Virginia. Hi, Jose. Welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. Jose, are you there? Jose in Virginia. Hello, hello. We don't have him. Let's go to Mac in Georgia. Mac, you're up next. Hi.
Hey, thank you, Kevin. I'm glad you got my call.
I'm glad you're here.
Brother Huckabee, I think he's pretty straight on both ways, really. And that fellow that called, Billy Joe Biden, what was his name?
Billy, calling from Oklahoma.
Yeah, Billy. He probably didn't have guts to call you, but on the payphone, if the truth was known.
Yeah, see, Mac, here's the difference, and I don't want to get into this.
I understand.
Look, he has his view. He came on, I put him on, and people heard what he had to say.
Right.
He accidentally got disconnected on our side. I had nothing to do with that. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but at the end of the day, I welcome a debate of ideas, and I don't shun that at all. And sometimes people call the show thinking, oh, if I don't agree exactly with what he says, then there's going to be some. No, you call, you disagree, I'll put you to the front of the line. I want to have a contest of ideas.
Right,
I actually think that's where people learn things.
That's right. Thank you, man.
All right, Mac, thank you for your call. Appreciate it. 888-589-8840. Jackie in Tennessee, you're next. Hi.
Yes, sir. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being here. Happy Monday to you.
Thank you. You too.
I just want to say some people, just like the scriptures, they'll read the Bible and they'll take one line and take it out of context. So therefore, that's what they did with Governor Huckabee, and they just need to get over themselves. I vote for Huckabee. Thank you.
Well, and the interesting thing about, thank you, Jackie, for your call. The interesting thing about this is that the majority of people, as your calls are proving, will not read this for anything more than what it was. It was a comedic throwaway line in his speech that was designed to get a chuckle. And what's going to happen is there are going to be some very sour-faced people in Washington, D.C., and in New York, in that kind of circumference beltway there that goes back and forth between those two cities. They're going to go to wine and cheese parties, and they're going to have these very sophisticated conversations about, the very sophisticated things that sophisticated people talk about. And they're going to say, did you hear what Huckabee said? Yes. Oh, my goodness, it was so ridiculous. How could he say such things? Oh, doesn't he know he's not some sort of, aged caveman that's the way they are. There won't be a discussion about what economic policies do we actually have in place and how are they working or not working, because then we have to examine what we're doing. There won't be a real discussion about the loss of liberty that Governor Huckabee was trying to at least initiate by citing the things he cited. And goodness, I doubt that any of them will bring up what happened in Nevada last week with the rancher, Cliven Bundy, and his family. But there sure should be. And that brings me to our Monday prayer focus. And as we've been doing all throughout this year, every Monday, we've been setting aside a part of the broadcast so that we have something to point our prayerful thoughts in the direction of for the rest of the week. And this, we're partnered in this with Pastor Jim Cymbala of the Brooklyn Tabernacle from Brooklyn, New York. He said something recently, and I thought it was really profound. He said, some people think the closer they get to God, the more glum and austere they have to be. He says, but sadness is not a sign of spirituality. Joy is a sign of spirituality because joy is a fruit of the Spirit. Now, this is Holy Week. And there's going to be a lot of people that say, hey, that snuck up on us fast. And it's Passover and the Christian Holy Week combined, which doesn't often happen, but this year it does. It's supposed to be that way. And it may not even feel like it. In fact, in our own circumstances, there may be a good many things that you or I may overtly question this year. Why did that person speak to me that way? Why does God allow the bad things to happen to good people? Why do they have to suffer? What did they do to deserve it? I was reminded of some of these situations when I heard Pastor Cymbala speak today's prayer focus a couple of weeks ago. And I recently witnessed a young couple in our church who lost a baby literally hours after they gave birth. For only a short little while, they held her in her arms. They prayed over her. They watched her go. Now, the doctor had told them in advance that they would likely experience exactly what they went through, but like everyone else inside, they were hoping, as we all did, that a miracle could occur. Now, some would respond to those circumstances as becoming glum, silent, even bitter. Some would even teach that God wanted us to learn some great lesson in the midst of these circumstances. But the truth is, God wants neither of those outcomes for us, at least not prescriptively. He's not trying to punish us so that we, get on his good side. What he wants us to be assured of is that in any and all circumstances, he's in control. He's working out his will, and if we trust him, we can know that he will work it all to his good. I was glad to see my friends come through the period of mourning and grieving and saying goodbye, and doing so with an incredible testimony. And I've also been glad to see them thank God for the joyous things in their life, like their other child who is doing very, very well and is very healthy. It's a good reminder to me that what Pastor Cymbala said is true. Joy really is a sign that he, the God of the universe, is at work. So even when we don't feel any joy, let's ask him for joy as we pray this week. Wrap that into the bedrock of how you pray. Lord, during this Holy Week, give us joy. Father God, we ask that as we commemorate your promises of Passover and we remember the death of your Son and the victory over sin and death of resurrection, that you would quiet our hearts and remind us that joy is made complete in your work in us. Fill us with joy, Father, so that we can fulfill your purposes in all we come into contact with. And I think he'll do it. And that's what we want to have happen. Work that into your prayer life this week. Make this week of prayer a week in which you ask God to infuse joy into your perspective, his joy. That doesn't mean you're going to be running around, waving your hands in the air, being happy all the time. Happiness and joy are very far apart from each other. They are not the same thing at all. Happiness and joy are completely different. Happiness is dependent upon external circumstances. Joy comes from a source that you can't really put your finger on. And if you are not getting the prayer focuses that we do every Monday, pray2014.com. Pray2014.com, and you can also leave your prayer requests on that page. People are coming and going every day of the week. They're praying for the requests that are on the page, and they're leaving some to be prayed for. So when you leave a request, pray for one or two that are also listed there. But we're gathering a group of people, 5,100 people plus strong so far this year in 15 weeks, that are praying for one another, that are praying for these things in their life, and we ask that you would join us. Pray2014.com. Pray2014.com. I'm Kevin McCullough. It's the first day of Holy Week. We will be back here tomorrow. We hope to see you as well on AFA Today on AFR Talk.